Well, some of you may feel like we're having an early spring, but I would caution you and say not so fast. With this warm weather too, though, there is going to be the risk of some severe weather, not just today, but tomorrow, also into Friday. We're going to look at that today, and we're going to dig into the upper level details that are driving this weather pattern that we're seeing set up here as we head toward the end of February, or into January rather, into the 1st of February. It's just February, so still some winter to go. All right, it's going to definitely feel warmer across the south as we see a southwesterly flow and southerly flow here out ahead of this upper low across really the Four Corners state. That's bringing some precipitation here. All the cold air is locked up here into Canada. Watch what happens. What you do not see is an intrusion of this to the south. You do have some ridging starting to take shape across parts of Alaska. That right there could drop some of this cold air into the Pacific Northwest. I have a hard time seeing it move east because of this. What's going on up around Greenland? When you see troughing up here, you typically do not see a big trough in the east, and that's not what we're seeing. In fact, this right here to me would promote near or above normal temperatures across the country. However, with that said, there is going to be some really cold air just to the north of the U.S.-Canadian border that tries to drop south. I don't know the extent of how far south it pushes, but you've got this ridge across Alaska. And if anything, we're definitely going to get cold, I think, here into the northern Rockies, probably across the west coast too. And then as we head into the 6th and the 7th, this to me, especially with this much of a trough here into Greenland, that is some really warm weather. So if you are looking for an early spring or a midwinter melt, that's it. It's going to get really mild, I think, as we head toward the 4th, 5th, and the 6th. That changes, though. All right, I don't think it's going to last, and here's why. Once we head toward the 8th and the 9th, the ensemble guidance starting to show some northwest flow here. You've still got your ridge across Alaska. One would argue you do have some lower heights and troughing here across Greenland, but what you start to see is this polar vortex, or this low, if you will, move a little bit to the west and south. You do get some ridging developing here around the 8th, 9th, and the 10th, and that would put some cold air, I think, into the central and eastern U.S. As we head toward that time frame. Hey, if you're new to the video, thanks for stopping by. I'm Travis. Welcome here. I used to be a chief meteorologist many years ago on television. I got out of that business many years ago, but found myself looking at this stuff, so we're sharing it here on YouTube now. So if you're brand new, thanks for coming by. I hope you'll consider subscribing. This is snow and ice across North America right now. The orange is ice, the blue is snow. Still some snowpack on the ground from our snowstorm that we saw, many weeks ago here across the Central Plains into the Northeast, into parts of Kentucky. There's still snow on the ground, but we've pretty much melted everything here across the South. Of note and interest, look at the orange here across Lake Erie. It's the shallowest of the Great Lakes. A lot of ice cover here. That's going to help limit some of that lake effect snow. Lake Ontario is still open for business. This is your snow totals through a week. All right, so you can see not a lot of snow expected here, but there is some potential back here across the Rockies. And look at that, starting to show up. I don't know that I believe what's happening here into South Dakota just yet. We'll look at that. Let's go through the week. Let's brief you on what's happening over the next several days so you can plan accordingly. This upper low across the far southwest continues to spin. These bowling balls of cold air, if you will, are very difficult to forecast. I've said that all week, but the models are starting to come into really good agreement to where this goes as we head into the weekend. Your main flow, your jet stream, if you will, is up here across southern Canada into the Great Lakes. This is cut off from that. That's why it's called a cut-off low. Ahead of it, a lot of moisture, rain showers, some thunderstorms. Some of those could be severe today and again heading into Tuesday, and some snow possible back here across the Four Corners states, mostly into New Mexico and Colorado. This moves east, so now we're getting wet here all the way from St. Louis, Kansas City, east into Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and then south into Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama. Some of these storms down here could be strong as well. To severe, maybe a few isolated tornadoes possible. This cold air aloft starting to get really sucked into our jet stream and gets washed out as we head toward the weekend. Ahead of it on the northern side, there could be some snow into parts of Michigan. I don't think we see it in Detroit, but we could up towards Buffalo. That looks like the dividing line. North of that into northern parts of New York. I don't think it gets really south of Albany and then into Vermont, New Hampshire as far as the snow goes. And then the rain also moves off the East Coast by Saturday, so we do start to dry out some. And then we're looking at our next storm that's moving into the West Coast. That's going to bring a lot of rain and snow to this part of the country. A closer look here to the Northeast, then we'll work our way west. We've got the snow showers here going through the day today into Thursday morning. This would be early Thursday morning. Still snow showers coming here off of the Great Lakes. Not as much up into Lake Michigan here. Most of that up here into Superior and also Huron, but that starts to settle down some. And now this next snow right here is associated with this moisture that moves north. It's not going to be a lot. Don't expect feet and feet of snow, but there could be a coating to a couple of inches on the northern side of that and some heavy rain to the south of that as our cold front moves through, dropping our temperatures back. And then we're dry as we head into Saturday. Sunday, a weak system may move through the Great Lakes into the northeast, bringing some light snow with it. Otherwise, maybe even a few more rain showers heading into Monday, and then warm here across the south. Here's your snow with that next system heading into Friday and Saturday. This is not including today. We're taking that away just to give you an idea. It's not printing a lot of snow. This is the snow that we're seeing through Friday on top of what you may have already seen if you've seen some snow overnight into today. So a couple more inches possible here, especially into parts of northern New York, Maine, maybe even toward Boston, an inch or two here possible. Look at your temperatures. This is where I think things get pretty wild. Through today, pretty warm across the south, back in the 60s and 70s. Cold across the northeast, though. Teens and 20s here. We're back into the 40s, though, from New Jersey, back into Maryland, back into Indiana, and then we cool down. Temperatures dropping back tonight into the single digits to below zero, especially into the northeast. Heading into Thursday, though, look at the temperatures warming up. Still, you've got some southwest flow starting to develop here. Temperatures across the northeast definitely starting to warm up. At least we're above freezing. And then look at this. We may crack 60 up to Columbus. Some colder air just here in the mountains, but you've got a lot of warm air surging north. You're probably going to have a front somewhere here with that system as it moves to the east. So again, on the northern side of this, there could be some snow. And then once it swings through, your winds turn west to northwest. You can see how things start to cool down some, but not a huge Arctic blast, at least for the south. It certainly is going to get cold here into the northeast. I mean, you guys are just going to get hammered with more cold air. Another cold morning on Sunday with below zero temperatures, while spring, if you will, starts to feel like it's on with some spring fever signs here across Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois, Iowa, back up into the mid-50s, close to 60 from St. Louis back to Kansas City. Looking really nice here if you're hoping for the warm weather. I don't think it's going to last. I mean, if I look at the long range, again, as I showed you guys at the beginning of this video, some colder air just lurking to the north, and the weather pattern, I think, will change around the first 7 to 10 days of February, or I should say around the 7th or through the 10th. Across the Central Plains, here's that cold air aloft moving through Texas, Oklahoma. It's going to bring those rain showers. Some of that, again, could be severe across Texas right in here with a chance of seeing some strong damaging winds, some hail. Today, the tornado risk relatively, I don't want to say low. It's not a zero threat, but it's pretty isolated here across central Texas. Heading into tomorrow, that expands. Now we're tapping into a little more moisture, some more unstable air. So your severe risk going up. Also, a lot of wind shear, so your tornado risk going up. So tomorrow, from East Texas into Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, watch out, especially into this region, for some tornadoes on Thursday. Friday, that pushes east. Now we're looking at Pensacola, east into the panhandle of Florida, and then north into Alabama and parts of southwest Georgia. Temperatures here today on the way up. We are also going to continue to see that warm up ahead of our system as we head now into Thursday, with temperatures climbing well into the 60s across parts of Oklahoma, into the 70s across southern parts of Arkansas. That warm air again squeezing north up along the Ohio River as we head into Friday. And then look, into the Plain States, we're back up into the 50s across Kansas, even into parts of South Dakota into the 50s. But the deep freeze is still on here across the Dakotas. We're in the single digits. Some of that cold air really just trying to lurk here. And if you will, look at this. Boom, move south as we head into Tuesday. And we talked about that right here along the U.S.-Canadian border. It's going to be cold. No relief for you guys, unfortunately. It's going to stay cold if you're hoping for a warm-up. Across the west here, we've got this upper low we've talked about bringing that precip across the Four Corner states. But your next significant storm, and I'm telling you, this could bury the mountains of British Columbia, down into Washington, Oregon, the Cascades, into Northern California with some really heavy snow with onshore flow. That snow moves into parts of Idaho, Montana, even Wyoming. Big snow up here into the Canadian Rockies, too. I don't know that it gets into the snow shadow areas of like Calgary, east of the mountains here in Montana, but up into the mountains, a lot of snow expected, and we'll even see it as far south as the Sierra as we head into Sunday and into Monday. And look how this continues. And if you get this upper low spinning off the west coast, just continuing to pump that moisture here into the east coast, or the west coast rather, you're just going to get a ton of snow into the Sierra. We've not seen that in a long time here. So it looks like quite a bit of snow on the way. And some of this, as we head into next week, tries to indicate that it's going to move into the Four Corner states once again. It may not get down into Arizona, but it looks like it's on the way here for Utah and probably Colorado. This is your snow totals through Saturday. We're not done with it. We're going to be measuring the snow from British Columbia down into California in feet in the mountains here. Not necessarily Southern California. Some of this back here is going on right now, and we'll be done with it. But into the Intermountain West, into the Rockies, quite a bit of snow here in the mountains. Feet, I think, is how we'll be measuring this once it's all said and done. All right, that's all I got for now. Have a great Wednesday. See ya.